Thank you everyone for joining me this morning after the party last night. I know that for some might have been little bit hard to get up. So this morning we are going to talk about how we got back to CITE certified in GeoServer and what it even means to be CITE certified. As I said, my name is Andrea. I'm a GeoServer core developer and a technical lead for GeoServer in GeoSolutions. We have offices in Italy and the United States, global clients. We are developers and maintainers of GeoNode, MapStore, and GeoServer, and contributors to GeoNetwork. We provide a number of services around these open source projects, including training, customized solutions, bug fixing, warranty, and whatnot. We are strong believers in openness. We work on open source. We work on open standards. And we use that as our way to collaborate with the community and our customers. So, GeoServer, OGC services, and certifications. GeoServer has been OGC first from day one. It was born as a WFS server. It then became also WMS server, then WCS, then WPS, CSW, and eventually, fast forward to the 2020s, implementing OGC APIs. So OGC is at the core of the GeoServer experience. OGC provides a service validation and certification system, which is called the team engine, also known as CITE certification. It's a way to validate that your server really implements the standard properly. If you go into the team engine website, you will find a long list of available test suites for the majority of the OGC services, and their various versions. So this is one example. This is another example. As you can see, the list is long. It covers WFS, WCS, WMS, CSW, WPS, OGC APIs, and whatnot. For each and every one of them, you can basically stand up your server that implements a particular service. You point this team engine suite to your server. You set up a few parameters to drive the testing. For example, here, do you want to test WFS transaction? Do you want to test WFS locking or linking, and so on? And then the test suite starts and starts issuing requests to your server, verifies the responses. Depending on the test, you might have to set up particular test data that the test knows about. Newer test suites work on whatever they find, on whatever data they find. Typically, they try to use 3-5 layers, but you can configure them to use all of them if you want. Now, site compliance and test automation, the beginnings. Back to 2009. It's been a long time. In 2009, we released GeoServer 2.0, and we had these certification logos in the homepage. So we were WFS 1.0, WMS 1.1, and WCS 1.0 certified compliant. It means that we went through the process, set up the data, ran the test, validated them, and then told OGC, hey, I ran the test, can I get the certification logo? And back then it was provided for free. We decided that we needed to run the test more often though. Running the test once a year is the typical workflow, but for us, it was, generally speaking, better if we could do it on a daily basis. Because the sooner you catch a bug, the easier it is to find where you introduced the regression. And so we found out that the test back then could also be run from the command line and not just from the website. So we took the tests, which were open source themselves, and started running them on the command line in our nightly build server. Early test automation was around 2010, work performed by Justin De Oliveira. He needed to patch the CITE engine to run on our build server a little bit so that it would run in a fully headless and a fully automated version. And eventually we had the 3 standards that I was talking about in multiple versions running nightly every day, allowing us to catch every regression early. We had the test suites version pinned so that we could test GeoServer rather than testing the newer version of the suites. That was great for us, but eventually it meant that the test suites were evolving over time, and maybe GeoServer was not compliant with the newer suites anymore because they were changing the tests, they were adding new tests, and so on. Then again, we didn't have any funding to do the upgrading. That has been an ongoing issue, getting funding to work on this. But still, it was better to keep on running the old test suites than not running them at all. Unfortunately, eventually, everything fell apart. Our build server got vandalized, it got attacked, and Bitcoin miner was installed on it. And we had to scrap it completely. When we did and we started rebuilding, we noticed a problem. First, Justin de Oliveira was not any longer an active contributor to the system, and we found out that while part of the engine integration was in a GitHub repository, the rest was done directly on the server without any version control. So we didn't have the funding needed to restart the whole machinery. And so eventually we lost the ability to run the nightly test suites. Okay. Fast forward to 2019, Jody over there started pushing to reinstate running the site test on a daily basis. He made a improvement proposal number 176, site automation RFP. The idea was to collect funds to rebuild the whole engine against the newer version of the site tests, run it on a nightly build on the build server, but also being able to run it manually on the developer machine, which we found has been over the years an issue. New developers never knew how the hell to run the site test on their machine. They had to make changes and then wait overnight to see if they were actually fixing anything or not, which was a drag. So the desired outputs run on the build server, run on developer machine, eventually set up and run also test suites that we hadn't been running before, like WFS 2.0 and WMTS 1.0. We got the funding from OSGeo, from Gaia 3D, from OSGeo UK, and we started working. Timing was not exactly ideal. GCIP was approved December 2019. OGC, right in that time, was changing how the site testing was working in a significant, fundamental way. New tests were being written or rewritten using TestNG rather than the old XSLT, believe it or not. The tests were written in XML itself. Docker support was started, which was great, but it was available only on a few selected test suites. The old ones were still running only on the command line. A REST API to invoke the tests was also being added. Again, great. I can start up the Docker, I can invoke the REST API, run my test. This is awesome. But again, it was only available on a selected few tests. We tried to use that, but everything was moving, and eventually we couldn't. So we fell back on using the command line interface. Between this mess and other work, the machinery was completed in 2021. Then we had to set up, the machinery per se was able to run the test, but it was not passing them. We would have to fix the code of GeoServer to actually pass the test. And then the pandemic hit. And so our planned in-person code sprint to pass the test never happened. Fast forward to the end of the pandemic, 2023, we got threatened to be sued for using Orgo OpenGIS in our Java package's name. And we had to focus on that, avoid the lawyers and avoid the judges. And so we organized in Bolsena a code sprint to eliminate all the Orgo OpenGIS package names in our source code. Me, Jody, and Ian worked for a while, and that basically ate our time availability for code sprints for that year. Then finally, in 2024, Camp to Camp organized a code sprint that wasn't directly related to site test, but what they wanted was to do OGC API features and move them from community module to supported extension. One of their requirements was you have to pass the CITE test and prove that you are passing the CITE test for OGC API features part 1 and part 2. Gabriel Roldan, working on that, revived the old Docker machinery that we did in 2021, made it possible to use the newer Docker images from OGC, which in the meantime evolved. And so he created a build to run OGC API features certification. And we also found out that just running WCS 1.1 and WMS 1.1, they were still compliant. And so pull request to run certification. And since we are in the GitHub era, where everyone can contribute little bits and pieces without being involved, that's our entry point for the code. So we set up things so that in every pull request, we run the CITE certification engine. And so by November 13, 2024, we had 3 CITE certification suites running in each and every pull request. So much better than trying to catch up with people the day after. 1 week later, I used some of my spare time and found out that I could run also WFS10 and 1.1 with some changes to the test data, which had become by then outdated, and it was targeting an old version of PostgreSQL. So 1 week after the code sprint, we had 5 test suites running. Fast forward now, November 24, 2024, I looked into WMS 1.3 and found that I had to make one change in the GeoServer code to make it pass as well. So November 24 to 2024, we had 6 test suites running and passing. Fast forward to January the 3rd, 2025, I used some of my Christmas holidays time to work on a harder to get working test suite, which was the WFS 2.0, that has never been attempted before with GeoServer. And I managed to make the necessary fixes and make it run. So we had January 3rd, 7 test suites running and passing. 7 days later, I found out that I could also run the GeoTIFF certification. Now, this could be interesting because it's a format. It's not a service. So in this case, you actually produce a GeoTIFF with your software, you throw it at the CITE certification engine, and it validates that the contents are correct. So I started executing requests to WMS and WCS that would produce a GeoTIFF in various ways, tiled, untiled, one band, multiple bands, different coordinate reference systems, and so on. I came up with a dozen different GeoTIFFs, and I basically automated the running the CITE certification runs over each one of them. And then we had 8 tests passing and running. February the 8th, I used another little bit of my own spare time to do the same for GeoPackage. So have GeoServer produce GeoPackages in output, throw them at the certification test suite, validate their contents. Again, a variety of cases. One layer, one vector layer, multiple vector layers, one raster layer, different coordinate reference systems, and so on. A little bit of variety of what GeoServer can produce. And then we had 9 tests running. February 24th, I started hammering WMTS 1.0. Again, another new one. I found that I needed to make one fix in GeoServer and that I needed one fix, actually 2 fixes in the test suites themselves. This is not uncommon. The test suites are software too, and they contain bugs as well. So I reached out to OGC, open a ticket, open a pull request to modify the test suite. And for the moment, we are running a patched version of the test suite. Not finally, but then in March 25th, I started working on WCS 2.0, and I found that again, there were problems with the test suite, made one fix, made another bug report, and then we were at 11 test suites running. July the 3rd, 2025, so this month, I made OGC API tiles pass as well. Again, it needed, this time, it couldn't run on the official version of the CITE test suite, but I found that the beta version that had a newer version of the test suite was passing. So they already fixed what I needed. And here we are, 12 certification test suites running on each and every pull request. Are there more test suites to target? Yes, we could do CSW202. I haven't attempted that yet. We could do KML certification. GeoServer generates KML out of WFS and WMS. It does not pass yet due to some XML binding issues that will be solved when we switch to GeoServer 3 and the newer version of the XML binding libraries. I had a quick attempt at OGC API processes, which we do implement and as a test suite. There are problems. I believe they are in the tests, but I haven't figured out exactly how to fix them yet. So running all these tests is great, but it doesn't lead to certification per se. You still have to go through the official team engine, stand up the machines, run the tests, tell OGC, and so on. Peter, from our PSC, started to lead the charge a few months ago, actually. First order of business, he organized a test machine. OSGeo provided one. And then he started working on having 7 different GeoServer running on the same machine, because each certification test suite needs different data sets. And so we needed different core configurations. He got everything working by March 2025. He basically made a large Docker Compose file that is running, starting up a separate configuration of GeoServer on different ports. And that is made available over the internet, and you can run tests over it. Ready to roll in March 2025 or not? We reach out to OSGeo, which is our way to get to OGC. Angelos is our counterpart at OSGeo. Angelos reached out to OGC, and they said, oh yeah, you are running all this suite. This is great. You have to pay $1,000. What? No, nobody's paying. Yeah, because they are reference implementations. So to certify, you have to pay $150 per standard, unless you are reference implementation. And there are 3 reference implementation slots for each service. Guess what? Many of the reference implementation slots are already busy. So we discussed, do we pay? Do we not pay? Well, for once, we pay. And then OGC offered a discount too. Eventually, we got certified. And this is our new certification logo, which appeared on the website a few days ago. As you can see, there is a fair amount of certifications available. Not all of them. They are still not 12, because there are a couple of suites which we haven't submitted to OGC yet. What about the future? Well, it turns out that we would have to shell out $1,000 every year to stay certified. For GeoServer 3, which we are going to release in March 2026, maybe we can use some of the funding. This is my idea. I'm not representing the PSC here. But maybe we could use some of the GS3 funding to get GS3 certified in March 2026. But then what do we do? Well, it's going to be probably what all other OSGeo services do. If we can get a reference implementation, we do it. Otherwise, we will be implementing, passing the test, and not officially certified, unless we can get funding from the community. And that's it.